the $15 per unit times the 14,000, enter. We're going to take the machinery and equipment of $4 per unit times the 14,000, enter. The utilities, this is the variable portion of $3 per unit times the 14,000. We're going to take the packaging equals the 5 per unit times the 14,000. We're going to take the shipping equals the 7 per unit times the 14,000. And we could do this basically two ways. We could sum up the total variable cost by equals the sum. Notice it has an underline under it because that's the format of the sale. And don't take the sales price, take everything from the direct materials down, and that will give us our 1,386,000. We can also do it this way. We could take equals the total variable costs times the level of production, 14,000. So that could be a shortcut way for us to do some types of calculations. Similarly, we could do the same thing here. The contribution margin equals the sales minus the variable cost, total variable costs in this case, and we get a contribution margin of 1,414,000. Note that we can also do that in a similar fashion. I'm going to delete that and do it the other way. We could take the 14,000 times the 101 contribution margin per unit, and that will give us our same number of 1,414,000. That's why this contribution margin per unit is very useful. Contribution margin is a very useful calculation in that way. Note that, once again, contribution margin is not on the standard financial statements. It's not part of financial accounting. Very useful in managerial accounting. All right, we'll do the same thing in pretending that we have a 16,000 unit, or budgeting that we will have 16,000 unit in our flexible budget. In that case, we'd have 200 per unit in sales times the 16,000. We would have direct materials of the 65 times the 16,000. We would have the direct labor 15 times the 16,000. We would have the machinery and equipment of 4 per unit times the 16 units of production. Utilities, we're going to have the 3 times the 16,000 units of production. Packaging, we're going to have the 5 times the 16,000 units of production. Shipping, we're going to have the 7 times the 16,000 units of production. We could sum this up this way by taking the direct materials, direct labor, machinery, utilities, packaging, shipping, sum them up. Or, I'm going to delete that. We could take the 16,000 times the per unit variable cost, same number. Contribution margin, we can take the sales, total sales, less the total variable cost. We get the 1,616,000, or delete that. We can do this a different way. We could take the 16,000 times the contribution margin per unit, same number. Now, you might be saying that was a lot of calculations. Excel has some shortcuts that we might be able to implement here, and that is true. So let me just show you a shortcut for basically all these numbers. If you wanted to use the copy and paste or dragging feature, I'm going to delete these and calculate them one more time. We could say that we know that we're going to take the 14,000 times the 65. Now, if I took that number and I just dragged it, or I either copy or paste it, or I use this autofill, I'm going to put my cursor on the autofill and drag it this way, then let's see if that does what we wanted it to do. It didn't. Why? Because it moved this number over and it didn't move this number. So this is an opportunity for us to look at some mixed references. If I wanted to move this one to this side, I would double click on this, and notice I don't want the F here to change. Therefore, how do we do that? Once again, you put a $sign in front of the F, and that makes it a mixed reference. I don't want to put it in front of the 7. You can also do that by clicking F4, and it goes through the series like that. And then if I copy this one over here, then and I double click on this, it now does what we expect it to do. Now, if I wanted to copy these down, I'm going to take the mixed reference out now. So we just have a normal reference there. And I'm going to take the mixed reference out here. And let's say I wanted to copy these down. I highlight both of them, and then I highlight down, and I copy this cell down. See if it does what I want. It's too big for the cell, but that's okay. I'm going to double click. And it took this number when I wanted to keep this number. So that's again a format where we need to apply a mixed reference. So if I wanted to do that, then we would go back up here, and now this 14 we do not want to move down, so that's on the 4 line. So I'm going to go back over in our formula, and I'm going to put a $sign before the 4, and all that means, and you could put one before both of them, you could make it absolute in this case, and what that means is this cell H4, we're telling Excel do not move that down in relation to this cell when we move it down. It has nothing to do with dollars. And we're going to do the same thing over here. I can put my cursor on the I4, and I could select F4. That's an absolute reference. It has nothing to do with dollars. It's a programming type tool that says, hey Excel, when you move down, what I want you to do is I want you to take the 15 from the 65 in relation from this cell to this cell, but keep this cell the same. So let's see if we do that. If I highlight these down, if we come up with the same numbers, and it's doing what we want to do there, right? So now we can double click, it does what we want to do. If I wanted to sum it up just to double check, see that we're coming up with the same number here. We have the same number, and if we highlight here, we have the same number, and so that looks good. So that's a quicker way to do that. Note that normally when we do a reference and copy and paste it down, we want the cells to shift. That's what Excel does by default. In this case, we need some absolute references to do that. The fixed costs over here, notice they don't change because they don't change with the level of production. Doesn't matter that we made 14,000 units. It's still 300,000, and it's still 300,000. Note that I can do that all the way across again. I can type this in, equals that number, equals this number. The sales salary doesn't change, it's the fixed cost. Sales doesn't change, and this doesn't change, doesn't change. So we're just taking those same numbers in here. This should be this number. Note that once again though, if we do it this way, I'm going to delete this, and I want to do this in a quick way. I'm not going to retype the number in here. I'm going to put a formula in so that when we copy it down, the formula will copy down. So note if I put like 300,000 here and I copy that down, it's going to put 300,000 underneath. But if I delete that and I put this equals the 300,000 and I copy that down, Excel sees that and says, oh, you want me to move the formula down, like almost any Excel worksheet you would want me to do that. Therefore, I can copy this down and put my cursor on the autofill and copy that down all the way to all the fixed costs, which will then pull out the cell next to it. If I do the same thing here, again, I don't want to put the 300,000 and type it in, because if I pull that down or copy and paste it, then it just takes the number. But if I say this equals the 300,000, enter, and then I put my cursor on that, auto fill it down, I put my cursor where it looks like that, and then auto drives it down, and Dr. Phil does the calculation, and it just pulls those numbers over. All right, and then we're gonna I'll just underline these just to have it formulated. Okay, and then we just sum this up, and once again, this is the sum of these cells. I can autofill that. I'm just gonna add these up. If I highlight them, they add up to 1,356,000. If I put my cursor on this and I put it on the autofill again, pull it over, it's the same number. Is it the same number because it copied this number, or did it copy the formula? Well, if I double click on it, I can see the formula moved over. And that's what Excel does. Excel assumes that we want to move the formula over. So I'm going to do the same thing here, move the formula over. Then we got the income from operations, going to be the contribution margin less the total fixed costs. Therefore, we're going to take this cell in H24, H24 equals this 1,414,000 minus the total fixed cost, and enter. And then once again, we could copy that across. I could put my cursor here and put my cursor on this item and drag it over, auto drives it, and Dr. Phil puts the number in there, autofill. All right, so then there we have that, and that does what we wanted. It's the contribution margin less the total fixed cost.